Why do you say that, Father? You aren't afraid, are you?
No, but I respect some of the superstitions of others. Often they are founded in fact.
Broadcasting live from our Sanctum Sanctorum in Venice, California. This is the Sixth Sense Society. I'm your host, Krista, here with our producer, Michael. And today we are excited to have back on the show Diane Zingale, who came on before to talk about the Knights Templar. And today she's going to be talking about the Fraternity of the Hidden Light. She is the Grand Cancellaria of this fraternity, as well as a Knights Templar and a Continental Mason. So we're going to be talking about that and some exciting event coming up around the Mystery School. But before we get started, Michael has a few announcements.
Hi, everybody, and thanks again for tuning into our broadcast. I'm not going to take too long. Just to remind you guys that we have some really great stuff coming up in October. We're going to have another Spell It Out to start the month. And then we're going to have a 2-hour paranormal special with all of our paranormal friends, Mystic Mitten and Craig Owens and Holly, Jeff Mandel. Maybe a few others joining us in. So stay tuned for that. We're going to have Jackie Smith and Madame Zalema back and do a little bit of witchcraft stuff. So get us all in the Halloween spirit. So we've got lots of great shows coming up. So and check out all the information on our website, sixthsensesociety.com, SIXTH, all spelled out. While you're there, if you can afford to, buy us a coffee on Ko-Fi. It helps to cover our production cost, and we'd certainly appreciate it. Or subscribe to our newsletter. And please, if you enjoy the broadcast, then click subscribe on YouTube. That's one of the best things you can do to help us, because as we build our subscribers, YouTube takes us more seriously, and they start promoting us more. So click that subscribe button, and we will appreciate it. So with that, I'm going to kick it back to Krista. So take it away, Krista.
Great. Thank you, Michael. And welcome, Diane.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Of course, we loved having you before, so we're really happy to have you back on. So I thought maybe we could start with just talking about what exactly is the Fraternity of the Hidden Light.
Well, the Fraternity of the Hidden Light, or Fraternitas Lux Occulta, is it's been around about 40 years. We are a Golden Dawn tradition. It's descended, from the Golden Dawn through some members of the OTA and into the present. We focus on the work of Paul Foster Case, but in addition, we're really moving into the Aquarian Age. We are a great diversity of traditions going towards the light, and we teach. We have courses, correspondence courses online. We have virtual study groups that have been, we used to do them in person. Now, since the pandemic, we're all virtual, and we have people from all over the world. And we have lodges all over the world for people who want to do in-person ritual work that are now starting to get going again this equinox since the pandemic. So we are a mystery school.
So yeah, I did notice on the website there, you talk about being an Aquarian Age esoteric order of the Western mystery tradition. And just as a kind of curiosity, because I'm doing a little research on who thinks the Aquarian Age has started, who thinks it's going to start, and it's so diverse. I'd love to hear your group's view on whether or not it started, and if it hasn't, when would it start?
We think we're here now. Yeah, it's here now. And about 3 years ago, our structure shifted from a more hierarchical top down to, we still have the traditional three chiefs of the order, which are equal people, and we also have a Grand Lodge of about 7 who have equal votes, and we try to do things unanimously. So It may take a little longer, but rather than having the one head honcho who dictates to everybody else, we don't run that way anymore. That's Piscean age. We're
Interesting. And how did that come to happen? It sounds like, since it's so recent, was that just something the group decided, or?
Someone had resigned, and we restructured, and we've always had three chiefs, but we decided to change, and it's been a good thing. We have a strong we have the first order are as part of the school, and then the second order, and we've continued pretty much and expanded. We're going more to a model like a university, where people in the second order are doing research and on various esoteric topics, because it can take a lifetime to go really deep into, say, alchemy or astrology.
Sure. And
people follow their passion. I mean, the main point of what we do is to help individual members connect with their own inner divinity, their inner higher self. And then when that connection comes through, that will determine what you study, where you go. The first order is a foundation of balancing the personality to get ready to do that. And so we have grade work and packets and degrees and to help people through.
And so when people enter the order, do they have a sort of mentor, or more a person they sort of go to for some of the guidance, or more than one person?
Well, if you join our probationer courses, we have a team of the directors of probationers who, as you go through the coursework, we're there. We look at the homework, we mentor, we help. But when you actually join the first order, would be initiation into a working lodge, and within a lodge, you might gravitate to a particular mentor. The chiefs of that lodge will be watching out for you and helping. But most people will. It depends. Some people want to study esoteric topics, and that's pretty much what they want to do. And other people are looking to take that path of doing ritual work, and that would involve getting initiated into a lodge and meeting regularly, usually monthly, for group ritual.
And there are lodges around the world now. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, we've had lodges around the world for a while. We have our main centers right now are there's Dallas, there's Boston, there's Northern California, Southern California, there's and there are people in Phoenix, there are people in Denver, there's people in a group in Europe, there's a big group in Latin America and Australia and Tokyo. And so there's Mexico, there's Venezuela, there's Colombia, there's lots of either lodges or study groups around the world.
So I'm curious, I know you said you built on Paul Foster Case somewhat, and how does this differ then from what, the correspondence course that is offered through BOTA? And when they founded it, what was sort of the reasoning to create another mystery school?
Well, BOTA started with Paul Foster Case and the work of Ann Davies. And, I don't want to, they do what they do. We're going back to maybe the Paul Foster Case lessons or teachings of the early stuff from the 20s, which I think was much more detailed. But we do a lot more. I think we focus more on ritual work. I don't really I was a member of BOTA. I know, and some of our people have come from BOTA, but I don't really know enough to say. And I contact them if you want to know about them. But I think they do mostly correspondence courses, but I don't know about lodge work with them.
So
Lodge work focus for us.
So is the ritual built on some of the Golden Dawn ritual, or did you create your own unique rituals?
Well, it will look similar to, I mean, again, I've got obligation. I can't say too much detail about it. I can say it'll look familiar to people who do I mean, there are simple and can do that. I mean, if that's fine, but we're not really, we're much more open to people doing research in the esoteric arts, and we're gathering a lot of information. And there's things from other traditions. So some people are working traditional Kabbalah, some people are working in, Greek and Egyptian, some people are working with the Hebrew. It's a Rosicrucian order, but at its base.
So does it have sort of grades then that you go through ritualistically, like a sort of sequence that a candidate goes through as they understand more?
Yeah, you
and
come in as
more.
a neophyte, and then it's the same grades as the Golden Dawn. A 110, 29, 38, 47 is the first order, and then a portal into the second order, which would be at Tefereth, so the 5-6 grade, and then above.
I did look at. I was just kind of curious. I was looking at some of the articles that are on your the website for the school, and I saw one about recommended reading books. And I always like to see what people recommend to read. And I noticed there were quite a few Diane Fortune books, which I love her. I think I've read most of her work, and I adore her writing, and she just seemed like a very remarkable person too.
I'm a big fan of Diane Fortune. I mean, that's actually how I got started in the esoteric studies when I was 19. We started doing the rituals from her fiction of Sea Priestess and Moon Magic, and next thing you know, you're connected with Isis, and things happen. And so things like that are possibilities within FLO. We're a big unity of a diversity, a big tent, so people can explore things that work for them. And as I said, all paths lead to the light. So that all paths that lead to the light are welcome. Yeah, I wish we're still working on updating our website, but I think that list of books has been there for years and years, but they're oldies but goodies.
Well, there were some very good books on it, so I'm sure one can always add more books. But in terms of just what I saw, I thought, wow, these are all they're all good. I mean, I found that Diane Fortune's book on the initiate is very difficult, very dense. I mean, she writes a lot, there's a lot of her writing that I know I have to go back and reread because it's just so dense and full of knowledge, and besides the sort of more intuitive aspect of it all.
Yeah, we're also updating because again, Golden Dawn was turn of the last century, and and was started by a bunch of Masons, and right. So they kind of had that. If you read Paul Foster Case, some of the writings are not what you call politically correct right now because of the way things were viewed back then in terms of other cultures or various. And we're equal. Everyone's equal. We want to be tolerant. That's again like Masonry. You're tolerant of other people.
Now, if a person is interested in joining, I have sort of two questions. How would they find out, and what would they need to do to join? What is your process of accepting people?
Well, the first thing you would do would be to sign up for the probationer courses that we've just moved to a wonderful new platform called Thinkific, so that you can, instead of the old way was paper and then it was sending PDF, and now you can go into this commercial professional course system, download your lessons, keeps track of your progress, upload your homework. The people who are the team who's mentoring can see everything and be there. We have a community forum that's sort of like Facebook on there. So to start, you would join the probationers classes, which would give you an idea of what we do. The start is the threshold course, and then we have one called Laws of Success, Fundamentals of Tarot, Path of Return, Practical Astrology for the Kabbalist, and finally, Elements of Ceremonial. So if you go through the probationer lessons, that will give you a really good foundation. You don't, once you've started the threshold, the next step would be, if you're interested in ritual work, would be to be initiated into a lodge. And if there isn't one in your vicinity, it is still possible to join and be an at-large member, which would require attendance, usually on equinoxes. So we regularly have people affiliated with our lodges who fly in from somewhere twice a year to do ritual. But otherwise, we usually meet once a month, and some groups meet a few times a month, and then the study groups are on top of that.
And about roughly how long does it take to go through the threshold course?
The threshold course, I believe, is a year and a half. And it could take maybe 5 years to go through the whole set if you were going to do that. But they're self-paced, so you go at your own pace. And then it depends on how deep you want to go in you might, the path of return is about the tree and the paths on the tree. The fundamentals of tarot goes deep into tarot, and again, it depends on what speaks to you, where your interest is.
Sure. Now, I know that some of the lodges and mystery schools have struggled a little bit with drawing in younger people. And have you noticed an increase in younger people's interest? They do seem interested in obviously metaphysical things, very young people. But as far as, joining these schools, what is it like for you folks?
We have a real mix. We have, some of us older people, and then we also have people, in their 20s and 30s coming in as well, and some of whom are very, very energetic. Reaching out, we have this virtual conclave coming up. It's our second annual one, and we made a lot of connections with the one that we held a year ago, but we're still learning how to deal with, it was enough for me to figure out Facebook. Now we're trying to deal with Instagram and all those other things that younger people use to find out. And I'm 66. I'm not fluent in that, but we have we're getting help.
Yeah, it does really help. Even having a small presence. And I did notice, I think maybe when I first interviewed Christopher, there wasn't much on Instagram. And I do notice that you're improving some of your social media presentation, and otherwise you're too hidden.
Yeah. We're starting to get some professional help, like the people who are doing the virtual conclave, where you can do 100 people on, or people on at the same time, put things on Instagram and get things out regularly. So we're working.
So the virtual conclave, what is the purpose, and what is it going to sort of cover, and when is it going to be?
Okay, October 10th is coming up. October 10th. Our first one was a year ago, and the format went so well that we are doing that again. And let me just look at the schedule here. It might be easiest. It's going to go all day. It might be easiest to just read some of the panel titles, so
Sure.
you have a clue about what we're doing. Last year we were focused on healing because of the pandemic. This year, the theme is promises of the ageless wisdom. Like, what do you get from doing esoteric studies? Why are we here? You know, what will you gain from studying ceremonial magic of this sort? So the first panel will be a panel on of a bunch of the presenters on how to encounter the age of Aquarius. And second one will be how the mind is calling us through music and popular fiction, comics, movies, and literature. Mm-hmm. So it's about the symbols and how those work. You know, magic works through your subconscious, and the symbols that come in are through that. The next one is the philosopher's stone made of water? So it's about alchemy. And then there'll be, at one point, each of the three chiefs will talk about their area. The Cancelaria, like me, we work with communication. So I'll have a brief thing about communication. Then we're having a break. Then we'll start. The next talk is Magic Starts with Vision. And so it'll be about how does magic work? The one after that is simply Aquarius. So we will be talking about how we are in this Aquarian age and what that means. The next one is Saturn is also involved, and it is great because it is freedom. So that'll be about astrology. And then the next one will be Kabbalistically out of the box. Uranus is also there. Just a few more. Then there is what is the fool looking at? So we'll be talking about
I like that.
what happens, and then an invitation for people to join us. And then we're going to have a bit of a meditation, and we'll go in every Sunday. We've been doing a healing meditation since March of 2020.
Oh.
And it's open to everybody, and we'll be doing that to close it out. If you want to know more about Fraternity of Hidden Light, go to lvx.org. That's our website. And in the calendar section are listed all the study groups. We have sometimes 2, 3, 4 of them a week in various, the local study groups from various lodges have been online during the pandemic, and now everybody's joining from all over the place. So right now we're working, we have a group working on alchemy, and another group is working on the 12 labors of Heracles, which is tied to the zodiac, which is also tied to that path of it tracks the alchemical 12 stages. We've got a series going on magical alphabets. We have a group looking at the I Ching and Western Hermetic connections. How do they relate? How's East and West esoteric studies working? So we're looking at Wilhelm's 8 lectures on the I Ching. So that's one group doing that. And then another study group, the topic varies month to month. So you just have to keep tuned.
Wow, it
and
really is diverse.
There's 2 tarot classes going on right now too.
That's wonderful. It's very diverse. I love that. It does sound very Aquarian.
Yeah, and then for the conclave, you would go to flo-virtualconclave.com, and there you can see the schedule, how to participate, how to sign up. To join our webinar and Zoom meeting, it's $10 because that pays for simultaneous translation. Since a big chunk of our order is in America or Spain and work in Spanish. Some of the presenters might present in Spanish, so we'll have simultaneous translation into English. And then the people who are presenting in English will have simultaneous translation into Spanish, with professionals. So to cover that cost, we're charging for it. It'll also, that will be live, and then you can ask questions via the chat. It will be possible for people. Last year's conference is on YouTube, and if you go, you can see the conclave from last year, which was a similar set of topics throughout the day.
Yeah, it sounds really fascinating. So going back a little to your own involvement, how did you actually get involved with this particular order? Because I know you have a very rich background in the spiritual, esoteric, and even Buddhist world.
I've been all over the place. I started in when I was 19 and an engineering freshman student at MIT. I ran into a Wiccan coven that I joined in Boston area. And from there, they had just after I joined in 73, they decided to switch over to working ceremonial magic. So they had, the Golden Dawn material and all that stuff that had been published, and they took it and the rituals from Diane Fortune's fiction, and they wrote their own rituals and started working in this tradition. And I was doing that for years. I had 17 years in Tokyo, and I was doing that. And so when about 35 years ago, I met a member of FLO who had been coming to Japan. And when I returned to this country from my stay in Japan from 84 to 2001, he suggested I get involved with FLO. And so that was the connection that got me into this particular order. And I worked my way up from, when you join any group, you put on your white belt and work your way up the grades. And here I am now in the Grand Council area.
And
So,
you mentioned that briefly. You work with communications. What are other responsibilities with that role?
okay, well, if you look at a traditional order of this sort, you have a prolocutor who is responsible for like the curriculum and overseeing that sort of stuff. It's basically like the curriculum and what the work will be. And then the second chief would be the imperator, imperatrix, who is like the treasurer. And the cancellarius is sort of like the secretary. So as the secretary of the lodge, I'm responsible for communications with the outside world, sending stuff to the members, that sort of thing. So it's a standard Golden Dawn three chief type of system.
Now
the thing that's different is our prolocutor isn't, the three chiefs are equal. I think in some orders, the prolocutor or prolocutor general sort of outranks everybody else. We don't run that way.
And are they elected positions?
They're not elected. They're sort of, I guess, elected by the board. I mean, the board will offer it to someone, and the whole point is service. It's a lot of work.
I bet.
So I think the best chief is someone who doesn't want the job, because you don't want ego involved in it. You want someone who is going to do the work and serve, someone who's working for the good of the order, working for the good of the lodge, for the good of the family. I mean, we're a family. We're it's important that we take care of the members. It's not like a hierarchy; it's a family.
Mm-hmm.
Though, even though there is some hierarchy in there, but as people work their way up the grades.
Now, talking about service, this is something I think a lot about. The idea of what constitutes service to humanity. And I'll tell you why, and I'd like to hear your opinion. Maybe growing up as a woman, still in a culture where no matter what, it was still kind of a given that I would be a nurturer. But let's say I'm a woman that wants to go and invent things, and I want to have a lot of time to go and invent my crazy ideas. And isn't that also serving humanity in the sense that if I'm being true to myself? So I think that word service for me has a little bit of a connotation because of how I grew up. And because you also began by saying how part of your job is to help people get in touch with the true self and to the true personality. So I'd like to hear your comments about that idea.
Yeah, well, I feel that once you're connected to the inner and you hear that inner voice, it's different for everybody. And that'll direct you to what's your purpose in life? Why are you here? When I say serve, I was thinking, again, in the sense of the chiefs trying to serve the lodge for the good of the lodge rather than for any other reason of ego. Because in a sense, if you're going to do this work, you have to integrate your shadow. You have to work on your, the lower self, and have the thing that drives you be what comes to you through the higher self. It's like the Hierophant key. You're listening for that intuition to come through, and it's different for everybody. What service? Some are healers, some are some are invent things. Others are nurture children. It's different for everybody.
Yeah, and it's just something I have noticed when at least some people use that word, and they tend to favor certain personalities by that word. And I agree with you what service is. And one of the things about the whole idea of the personality that I found interesting was how Diane Fortune, in one of her books, talks about building a very specific kind of personality that holds this true self. And it was just the way she talked about it was so insightful and interesting, and it made me understand the use of personality in a spiritual context. And I love that about her writing.
Yeah, she talks about building a magical personality, and we also teach about that, because it's a matter of we're not great adepts right now. That might be the goal, but we're on our way there, and part of how you get there is balancing the lower personality, but also creating an image of who is that great adept that you're going to be, and how, to help you get there, and then working with that personality. Because I think Diane Fortune says it's like having a bow. You don't keep it stretched tight all the time. So not always that staying on that peak of tension when the magic's happening.
Yeah, you got to let it go at some point. No, and
you have to have your downtime. And Diane Fortune used to embroider. She'd sew robes and things to have her downtime. So it's part. I think part of my work has always been making the mundane magical. No matter what you're doing, it's how you view it. Are you doing the laundry, or are you consecrating the clothes? You gotta look at it's a frame of mind, and taking that time to connect with the light. I mean, even just go out and breathe some sunlight in the garden, to realize that, all the little stuff that you're running around with day to day and in your mundane jobs or whatever, to take that time out to reach for the higher and think about the connection to reinforce it.
It's so true. And also it's very enjoyable when you see the ordinary world as the magical world. There's no separation, and you can have just really interesting things happen with a squirrel running by, so at least I do. I'm such a nature person.
Well, that's the key. We're all one in this wonderful universe. I mean, it's a Buddhist idea. We're not, the separation is an illusion, but, you have to think about it to get that sense of connection. And if you do that, you love everybody because they're all part of you. Everybody.
Yeah.
Even the people you can't stand that help you. And the fact that if you can't stand them, it probably means they have some aspect of yourself that you need to confront. And it's a matter of treating everyone kindly and learning from it. But it's not. But it also isn't being too weak.
Right.
Mars done correctly protects the weak. So it's finding that balance.
It is. And actually, I recently came to this conclusion that it's actually okay sometimes if I don't like somebody, but I still am going to treat them based on how I believe one should be treated. And so it is an interesting practice to be decent to people that are in a way they're not responding, or they don't, they're not really very nice people. Because to me, and this is where I'm at, it's more important that I'm honest with how I feel about people, and then try to, increase my ability to act in accordance to my higher principles. And so that's what recently I was thinking about, because of someone that has irked me for about 3 years in my neighborhood. So.
no matter what group you're in, there's going to be that one person that pushes your buttons. And to work as a team means to be able to, like in a Masonic lodge, you tolerate other opinions, even if they're not your own view of the world. And hopefully, if everyone can be civil and tolerant, then an interesting discussion can happen. But also, I know whenever you point at someone, there's 3 fingers pointing back, because there's probably, if something irks you, it's probably some part of yourself that you're in your shadow that you're projecting out. But that's the best thing about a lodge is your brothers and sisters can hold up a mirror to yourself when you're doing something like that and say, hey, and help you realize and grow.
It is true that's what relationships do overall, that it's much easier to just kind of be in your own little place and not interact and think you're spiritually evolving. And until you really are tested with the lodge brothers and sisters, or with your neighbors or your family, it's a wonderful way to really see what's going on.
Well, I also study martial arts, and I remember a senior person had told me once that anyone can meditate, in a nice, quiet room, but you're really showing a higher rank if you can be in that calm state of mind and a bar fight is happening around you or something, and all hell's breaking loose. So you need to, it's easy to be calm when everything's calm, but to get the ability to keep that calmness no matter what's going on externally, and to bring balance and to calm things down just by being in that state, it affects those around you. So, I mean, it ties into some of my Buddhist studies. I know you also study some Buddhism too. So
Yeah, my teacher, Kempo Rinpoche, when I was living in North Carolina, and we rented a center. It was a really nice house that we could live in and rent the center, but it was on a really busy street. And we were worried about that. And he said, "Oh, no, that's perfect. You know, it'll help your meditation, the noise." So that's when I thought, oh, okay, then it is more challenging, but you're right. If you can learn to be calm in difficult, loud, or aggressive situations, that's the real test. And certainly it's fine to go off to a retreat if you can, absolutely, you know, but many of us these days have to deal with some kind of noise, and if you want to do a daily practice of any kind.
And people with the pandemic are going crazy. I mean, it's you know, there's a lot. It seems there's a lot more aggression out there right now, and if you can counteract that with calm and balance, that's a good thing. You know, I just thinking I've only just recently started flying on airplanes again, and you read the stuff in the news about people attacking people. It's like weird, you know.
Oh, it's definitely gotten more, and I think that's a combination of things. I think some of it is that let's just say a lot of people aren't used to being with themselves like this, and then so the issues come to the forefront of whatever our issues are. You can't like escape them as easily, you know, and just having, because some people have been through the pandemic alone, even, you know, in terms of just, physically alone. And I'm sure that was very challenging for people.
Yeah, I mean, I sometimes I think about, why the pandemic now? And it's like a giant reset on society where people have to think about, what's the meaning of why I'm here, and all of a sudden the pollution went away. The air was clear. There's wildlife walking around in the neighborhood. It's the whole world needed a reset. And so even though it's so tragic, and the stress and the loneliness people have been through with the isolation, it's there's some good that's come out of it, I think.
Well, we were talking about earlier before the show too, that some of the things that we had to do as spiritual groups, go on Zoom a lot. Some of that is going to stick around because it allows for more outreach to people that can't come. And so you mentioned that you folks were thinking of continuing certain study groups and on virtual reality.
Oh yeah, we just decided definitely, because we used to have, each lodge had its own study group that would meet a couple, sometimes weekly or something, and open to the public locally. And we've moved those online, and it becomes so much more rich because you can tune in to, say, the local people are mostly, say, in Dallas or somewhere, and you've got people from Tokyo, you got people from Australia, you got people from all over the world joining the conversation and making it much more rich. And a local group might be smaller, of who's locally attending a study group in person. And now it's we're going to keep it going because it makes it much more accessible, and especially to our members who may not be close to, or probationers might not have a lodge in their city, and it's a way that they can participate.
Yeah, I do think that's really wonderful. And, I have enjoyed that part of Zoom myself. There are just some people like I wouldn't have been able to connect with. And it's been really, initially it was a little odd because, I was like, I didn't know anyone. And then in my situation, and then you just, it's just like anything else you go to, once you do it the first time.
All of our study groups, by the way, are open to the public. So it's not just for members of the order, but it's open to anyone. And and everyone's welcome. We have people from other orders, people from, just seekers of all sorts come in, and if they like the topic, they join on in.
That's really good to know. I didn't actually know that. I knew some of because of Dan, I knew some things he would tell me what was open, and I didn't realize all the study groups were open.
Yeah, everything on lvx.org/calendar, all the groups there are open to the public. Anybody can join. We have some groups that are initiates only, but they wouldn't be publicized on the website. That would, just be internal.
So just from your own point of view, where do you see the school going in terms of the vision fitting into the Aquarian age? Do you think that it's one of these places more people will come to from different, religions and backgrounds as part of the whole Aquarian idea? What are your thoughts about that?
No, this isn't a religion or a cult, so any religion is welcome. That's not what it's about. We are growing. We feel there's a big energy. We just reopened one of the lodges a few days ago, and the energy coming through. Everybody is. We got more. Just a lot of people, especially after being in lockdown with pandemic, are just so psyched to be out in person with people. And we, through the courses, we are connecting with a lot of people of all ages, so it's happening, and we're growing. It's a good thing.
Yeah, I think this could be good for ritual because of the fact that people could not do it, and then realize, and then also people want more physical contact in general. I think this might be one of the areas that will benefit ritual in general.
Yeah, I mean, I know some people, we haven't been, but I know some groups have been trying to do ritual on a virtual platform, but the energy just is, you're not connected as you are in the same room, in my view. But, it works for some people, but we don't do that.
Well, I think that personally, I think too that people should weigh in on it in an honest way, because I think based on doing both so far, at least the way I've had the experience of ritual on Zoom, it's been very awkward. And even the flow of the ritual was difficult because, who was leading the group and how it was very, and so maybe it could evolve. I think it would probably need to evolve. And that's my honest opinion, because it'd be great in some ways if you could go to a ritual on Zoom, and having, like we talked earlier too, that having done most of my ritual work in person in life, at this point, I can say my opinion is that it's just not really working as well, like literally, like even the physicality of doing the words and the rituals and who's next. And it's like,
well, one thing that's important, I think, in the Fraternity of Hidden Light these days is that we're not like trying to be a one size fits all. We're letting different things happen and happen naturally. I've been in an ISIS circle that meets once a month, and we've been doing that on Zoom. We're going to meet in person next week, but it's hard because like only one person can chant. And you got to mute so that you don't have, because if you're all trying to chant together with the latency, and it's, ritual can be hard. I mean, it can be done, but it's better in person.
That's exactly the point I wanted to make, the muting part. So I found that necessary, but it also was not good for me because I like the sound of people's voices. Like if you're doing like something in unison, like a chant, and I understood the need to mute. But so they'd have to improve the way the Zoom and ritual to me to make it work like physically.
Yeah, you'll never get rid of the latency because it takes time for it to get from here to there, but which means you'll be out of phase. But one of the compromises we made is one person is assigned the part, and everyone else will hear them and themselves
Ah.
chanting in unison, but you wouldn't get everybody.
Oh,
You know,
so you at
because
least hear that.
if you're so if there's one person leading a chant for all people and everyone's muted, you hear them and you're chanting with them, so you hear the two of you.
Right.
But you won't have the half a second later everybody else chiming in. So it's yeah, you just have to be careful. And also, if you don't mute, sometimes you get the feedback from
Right.
and that's a mess.
Right. Well, is there anything more you wanted to also sort of say about the conclave coming up? So is there anything else you wanted to add to it since we're getting a little towards the end of the show?
Yeah, I would just say it's October 10th, and it runs all day. Go to flo-virtualconclave.com to see the schedule, to sign up, to register. You have to register so that we can, keep track of everybody on Zoom with it. Please join us. The first one was a blast, and you can see a replay of the first one on YouTube. There's an English one and a Spanish one, and the new one's coming up in 2 weeks. So,
and what is the latest time people can register? Because I know sometimes you have to register by a certain time for some of the events.
Well, hopefully you'd be registered, like the week ahead, so we have an idea. But I think as last year, they were people registering the same morning. So, it's only $10. So, come join us. It's not like it's we're just trying to cover the cost of the professional translators.
Sure. No, that's super reasonable, really. So lastly, let me, in terms of just the topic, I would be curious as to see where you personally see your own practice going and your own involvement in this group and any other spiritual things that you're doing. What is sort of your next steps that you see for yourself? Because I know you retired fairly recently, right?
Well, yeah, I retired last March just as the pandemic happened, which gives me time for all magic all the time, full time. I'm devoting full time to catching up on the piles of magical books that have been piling up and things that I want to do. But I'm just so psyched at the direction that FLO, Fraternity of the Hidden Light, Fraternitas Lux Occulta, that's all us, that our group is going. And we're growing. I'm excited with that work. But I also enjoy I enjoy the Buddhism. I enjoy the Aizian work. If it goes towards the light, again, I'm trying to be open to my inner intuition and just follow where I'm pointed. So it's I don't have it planned out. It just happens as things come up.
I have noticed at least maybe in the last 10 years that I have been meeting more people that have depth in several traditions. So like, for instance, we just interviewed Jason Miller, and he has a really interesting combination of spiritual practices with a lot of depth, though, not just sort of jumping around. And I'm curious how you approach doing your practices. Is it more of an intuitive method? Do you have a little bit of I like to do this on a daily basis, or do you switch it up? Because that's one of the things I'm just personally curious about.
The important thing for me is taking that time to connect with the inner. Connect for me. It works for me in sunlight, just to connect with nature and listen and then see what comes. So rather than, I'm going to do, some groups meet on a certain time in a certain place. But in general, my day to day is trying to focus on what's where the flow is, where the magical flow is, and working with it, and being open to left turns, because who knows where it'll take you.
That's good, and that shows an open mindedness to grow. I feel if you're kind of open, you don't have a sort of set regime that you're going to do no matter what all the time.
Well, it's not like there's a one size fits all, and also at different times there are different things you need to work on. And for example, I mean, when I was doing the Buddhist Goma, the fire ceremony, what wonderful work with elementals. It's a different way of doing it, but like that was a blast. I had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm only learning more about the obvious magical practices from Tibet, which even though I don't even think I heard about them when I first joined in my 20s. And of course, now there's a lot more publicized. And then you start to see they're different, but they're same. Some of the things that go on in spiritual practices. That's what at least I'm discovering. Like, like you were saying, oh, that's like the elementals, and I said, oh, I can see what this is like, and so that kind of fascinates me. That whole.
Yeah, and when you think about it, it's one universe out there. Different traditions put different names on the different parts of the universe, but it's one same universe, whether you're calling it an archangel or a god form or whatever. It's different cultures are all describing the same universe in different symbols that are related. So that's the other thing that helps me feel open to other traditions, because they're all talking about the same underlying divine universe that we're all one with.
Yeah, and it's really and I love personally the color of diversity. That it's so rich to have these different ways of the universe expressing itself, and all the paths being, to me, diversity is really healthy in all levels.
I think it's really Aquarian too.
Yeah.
We're in that age now, other than this, this one rigid form of any sort.
It is very Aquarian. Now, one of the things I did come across, one of the esoteric astrology videos I was watching, they were talking about the Aquarian age being about working with groups. And I thought, well, yes and no, maybe because I grew up with an Aquarian father. And Aquarius is also so much about being your true self within the context. So it's different than the tribalism of Pisces age. That's how I think it needs to be sort of considered. We're getting out of tribalism. And
finding that inner who you really are, and taking that path rather than going in a box with a label, that may not have anything to do with what the magic's about.
Yeah, and certainly there's a dark side to the technology, which would be the rise of the robots. So, and that is an element that's actually already happened on some level. We don't really consider it, but you look at the smartphone as being, in some ways, making certain personalities robotic, in that they can't separate from it at all.
That's another reason why ritual is an in-person physical contact with other people is so important, because it's just too easy to look at a screen and it's it needs to be real, touching real people, doing real energy transfer.
Absolutely. Flesh and blood, you can't really, I hope we don't get beyond that at this point. There is something about it, and that has to do with, which I know the Rosicrucians are pretty good with, the whole understanding of the body and the physicality of things. So, but anyway, we are getting close to the end now. So I just want to thank you for coming on again. That was really a great conversation, and we really appreciate you taking the time to do that.
Well, thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Good. Join us next time as we continue to explore the esoteric and the obscure together, and have a great, wonderful week.